Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Empowerment for Immigrants podcast. Today I have for you another very special treat, Rosie Paulsen. She's an owner of Rosie Paulsen Enterprises and she is also your Medicare Matchmaker. Rosie, sounds like you have two awesome careers. Tell us a little bit more about you. Where are you from? Obviously you're an immigrant, so where are you from? When did you come to the U.S.?
Well, first, thank you so much for inviting me to your amazing show. And yes, I'm originally from Ecuador, South America. That is the country between Peru and Colombia. A lot of people think that is in Africa, but it's not. It's South America, and we do speak Spanish there. Mm-hmm. I came into the United States at the age of 17 in 1988. And ever since then, my family and I have settled. And it's been more than 30. This year I'll be celebrating 33 years here. And in 2000, I became a citizen of this amazing country. So, I'm grateful. And I'm also for the American dream and becoming an American when I was a child and I wanted to do that. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that in the story that we will be sharing today.
All right, so tell us the story. What was the moment that you made a decision, hey, I want to live in the U.S.?
In my country, there was a lot of people that, boys used to play soccer. And because it was not a ladylike sport, people kind of discouraged women from playing soccer. But I was a really good goalkeeper. So I think at the age of 10 is when I had to kind of make my name be known in the world of soccer with my friends and stuff like that because, as a girl, I wasn't allowed to play. One time, I was about 10 years old and I came into the field and all my friends were playing with this blonde hair, green eye girl. Like she was part of the group forever. And I asked my friends like, why do you guys have no problem playing with her? But when it's me, you guys always challenge me. He says, well, she's an American. And that's why we were able to play with her. And so I'm like, okay, I need to find out what is being an American. So I befriended her. And in my limited English, I understood that she and her family were missionaries from the United States. And that she mentioned that in America, girls can do anything they want to be or do. And same thing with the boys. But at that time, in my 10-year-old mind, that's what I understood. That was the way I was going to be able to play soccer without anybody giving me a hard time about it. So I ran back to my house and I told my mom, I know how I'm going to be able to play soccer. And nobody's going to give me a hard time about it. Mama goes, how, honey, how? And I said, we'll have to move to America. We're going to have to meet this guy named Jesus, and everything will be okay, Mom. Everything will be okay. So at that time, between the American dream and gospel, I knew that I wanted to be an American and that eventually I will get to know that I was just always been in America and just born in the wrong place at that time.
Tell me a little bit more because you've added the guy named Jesus. Like, how does Jesus play into the story?
Well, she was a missionary from the United States, and part of the story is that their family went to my native country to share the gospel with all of us, and that's when she talks about Jesus back then. So at age 12, I visited the United States. My parents, with a lot of effort, gave me a trip because in our countries, and I don't know, and in your country it's the same, but when you go to elementary school until 6th grade. 7th grade, which in here is middle school, is where you go to high school pretty much in Ecuador. So when you go from elementary school to high school, it's a very big deal. So my parents, with a lot of effort to reward me for that, they bought me a ticket to come to the United States. So we visited Manhattan. We went to Miami. But me being in the middle of Manhattan and just feeling the whole energy of the city and the buzzing and everything, I remember, I know this is where I belong. And part of the thing is, remember, I spoke Spanish. I did not speak English at that time. And within 3 days, I was able to communicate with people. I was able to be in the subway and knew like the whole subway system. It was kind of like it just became came natural in me. We stayed here for about a month when I was 12. And on my way back, this is what I tell people about your mindset. It's so important. But on my way back, I remember crying, but saying to myself and saying to America, America, you have not heard the end of Rosie. I'll be back. I don't know how, I don't know where, but I'll be back. So from age 12 to age 17, which is when I came to the United States, it was 5 years of every single day, either pestering my parents, even preparing myself to learn English, because I was moving to America. I was not going to stay in Ecuador. I was not marrying an Ecuadorian. I was just going to move to America. And at age 17, my sister and I were the first ones to arrive. My family, there's 5 of us, so we kind of split up in 3 sections. So my sister and I came first. My dad came later. My brother came after that, and then my mom was the last one to come to the United States. But then in 1989, we all moved to Tampa, Florida, and I've been here ever since. So, it's just been a blessing to me as a naturalized American to see where my country can get if we just encourage the American dream. And more than anything, too, is how much the immigrants are part of making this economy thrive.
Yeah, talk about this a little bit more. Yeah.
Well, let me give you some statistics because this it will help you a little bit. But 70% of the economy of the United States is run by small businesses. Well, small businesses are run, most of them, by immigrants. And people don't understand that. Yes, there are Americans that have their businesses, but the majority of small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses, are owned by minorities. And then if we can go a little bit deeper and a little bit specific, let's say, in the state of Florida, 30% of the small business of the state of Florida are owned by Hispanics. And then out of those 30%, 53% are owned by Hispanic women. In the 2020 administration, Hispanic women were the block of businesses, the black that were starting businesses faster than anybody else out there. So there was a couple of initiatives like the Global Women International Initiative that was even not only helping women here in the United States, but globally to become entrepreneurs. So this is one of the best times to be an entrepreneur, because if you understand your purpose and what you were created to be, and you do that for a living, the end result is priceless, like the Discover card, because that's where you get your energy so you can build resilience and do it every single day because you love what you do, not because of the money, but because it's your calling, it's your purpose, it's your why.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that one. Mm-hmm. So now let's talk a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur here in the U.S. Did you immediately go into being a business owner, or what did you do?
Well, I had 2 businesses in my life. I mean, not businesses, but 2 careers, I would say. The first one, I was a business travel for American Express, and I worked in a call center for about 10 years. My daughter at that time, Tabitha, I have 2 children, Steven, who is now 27, Tabitha, who's now 30. At that time, Tabitha was about 14, 15, and she started struggling at school a lot with disciplinary problems and things like that. So really what she needed me. And I had to make the decision, do I want to help my daughter be successful or do I stay at my job? So I put my 2 weeks notice for my job, and I stayed home with her for a little bit until she was able to understand what was happening with her struggles. So when I came back into the world looking for a job, I realized that I really did not want to go back to a call center, and I wanted to honestly help people. That's what my first thing was. I wanted to be able to speak Spanish because at that time I wasn't speaking Spanish. I wanted to share the story because at that time is when I really reconnected with the Lord and I surrendered myself and became a Christian. And the last thing I asked, this was one of the first prayers that I did to God and about my job. I said, please, God, whatever you do, don't make me a salesperson, because my family all came from a 9-to-5 job. Nobody was an entrepreneur. Everybody was an employee of somebody. Nobody, like not having 9-to-5, not knowing what you're going to do. It was a taboo. Nobody spoke about being an entrepreneur. That was not a word that was ever mentioned in my childhood. When I went into the workforce, and there was this opening for Humana Healthcare. And I said, well, insurance, I mean, what can it be bad about this? It's another type of call center. So when I started, I had to get my insurance license, which I did. But then I realized that it was the call center life, but it was also the outside where you go to people's home and when you talk to people. And at that time, they were needing a lot of the bilingual community was being served because there was not enough agents that spoke Spanish. So I started like that. And I remember when I went to work in the field. So in the call center, it was called Net Park, but in the field, it was called Market Point. When I went to work for Humana Market Point, one of the first things, because I didn't know where to start, I joined this group called BNI, and I got invited there. And I remember sitting down around all this amazing, about 30 people with all their professions. And then I said, oh my God, I need that. Oh my God, I need that. And I just felt completely at home. But then somebody says I do health insurance. So I felt that I wasn't able to join that group because, health insurance. But somebody said to me, well, your niche is specifically to Medicare. And at that point is when I understood that, yes, although I was doing health insurance, my niche was Medicare, and not too many people were savvy on the industry. So I just became a wealth of knowledge. Anything that I could learn about Medicare, I learned. And I learned the Medicare side of it, the insurance side of it, the doctor side of it, and the patient side of it. And because I don't do anything else other than that, I consider myself an expert. And that's why I call myself the Medicare Matchmaker, because the one thing that happens when this Medicare Advantage plans or Medicare supplementals do not work is because the person was matched with the wrong plan. And that's what I say. I'm successful because I will match the plan with the person, and it's kind of like a marriage. And if everything works, the marriage lasts forever and they're happy. But then if there's concerns in the marriage or something is happening and there's like a little rough spot, I can always come back because the relationship with my client is long lasting. And we can review the policy and we can see, well, maybe a situation in your marriage changed. So we need some counseling, and now we need another policy, a different policy per se. And it has been very fun because I have helped so many people. But the one thing I understood, it was never about the money. It was always about the serving others, helping others, and do it because I feel good when I do it. Because of integrity and because I feel that I'm making an impact in my community.
Yes, and you are, right? And recognizing that you're doing that is what keeps you going. But, you make it sound so easy, Rosie. Oh, yeah, I just found this career. And obviously it sounds like an absolutely perfect career for you. Perfect timing and the market actually needing more Spanish speakers, right? And you're willing to learn it, all of that.
Yes.
Did you?
Yes.
Yeah. Were there any challenges?
Yes. So one of the first challenges when I share is, for example, the biggest one was to understand the government, right? So the United States is a country of rules and regulations. That's why we have a government and we have elected officials. Now, when you are a naturalized citizen, you don't go to school to learn the basic of government, because elementary school give you some government history, and then depending in high school they give you more of a civics classes. So if you have not attended school in the United States, then you really are not familiar of how the government works in here. And why is the government important? Is because while we as employees or as business owners are working on our business, there are laws being passed that affect direct or indirect your business. And if you're not aware of that, then somebody else is making decisions for your business. But learning and understanding that was the biggest challenge. If there's a challenge, I want to find a solution. And after talking to a lot of people, that's when I understood that my problem was that I was lacking civics 101 for the United States. So I remember having a lady that visited a Chamber of Commerce that I founded at that time, and she was county clerk of Pasco County. And I was mentioning to her that I'm still having the struggle with understanding what is Congress, what is Senate, what is local, what is national. And she mentioned, oh, that is a class that I give in elementary school. It's called Civics Government 101, and it teaches you how to pass the bills and stuff like that. And I remember saying to her, will you do me a favor and can you get that same class but into like an adult version of it and teach it to our international entrepreneurs? And we founded that as part of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and she will come every 6 months and give that class again. And many of us understood, oh my God, I was trying to do this, but no wonder it was not working in this side of the government because the one that is in charge of that is this other side of the government. So just seeing those aha moments, empowering people to understand that that your voice can be heard and that will protect your business and your family and all the efforts that you're putting in. That was one of those challenges that we were able to equip international entrepreneurs to be able to be successful.
That's really, I had no idea you were part of something so
Yeah.
big. And yet, it's so basic, right? And yet, I'm thinking how many other groups are not being taught these basic, when you pass, your test to become a citizen, you learn quite a bit. And that's a very, very good thing. I'm very grateful that I was kind of forced to learn those things, right? But still, that's very basic. If you are an entrepreneur, like you said, there are laws that are being passed, and we need to be educated on all of this stuff. Tell me, how long have you been in business altogether? How many years have you been an entrepreneur?
So my Medicare business, I started in 2009, and with that business, I did everything that was not supposed to be done, right? I did it incorrectly, and I learned from it. But in 2015, I also founded Rosie Paulsen Enterprises. And the enterprises is where I use my skills and my knowledge of owning the business for so long and the connections and my resources to teach business owners how to do a lot of business development and become the best entrepreneurs they can be while living their best life and having a thriving, successful, and profitable business. Because at the end of the day, you do want to make sure you have a profitable business because that's what you call yourself a business owner, right? But at the same time, you want to make sure that your family is taken care of, that your children are fulfilled, that your husband, and you and I talked about this, making sure that you don't get divorced in the process of becoming an entrepreneur because that happens a lot to many entrepreneurs. In 2015 is when I founded Rosie Paulsen Enterprises, but now I've learned from all the mistakes that I had from my business mates. Yeah, so this year will be 12 years that I've been in business. So, yeah, so it's been super exciting. And another thing that I do want to share with your listeners is that my biggest blessing was that I always had great mentors in my life. As a mentee, one of the things that I learned to do is, first of all, like become their shadow, right? And listen and like in a sponge, like suck everything that they taught me. One of the things that they always told me is that if I want to aim farther than where they have arrived, I've always had to view the vision from their shoulders. because you aim, and this is the analogy, you aim to the sun, but if you make it to the moon, you still have make it very far, but you aim to the sun. So even if you fall short, you're still going to be in the moon.
Yeah.
So that's the things that I tell people. And it is a blessing to me now with Rosie Paulsen Enterprises that I can give back to my community all the resources that my mentors gave to me, because now I mentor somebody else. Yeah.
So as you're working with different business owners, what is the one thing that you seems like everybody is struggling with?
Time management.
Mm-hmm.
Time management. Because when you are a first entrepreneur, first of all, you want to say yes to everything. But in order for you to be able to say yes to everything, you actually have to say no to a lot of stuff. And you have to have your priorities correct, because you have the same 24 hours as I have. Whoever successful person that you follow in your life have the same 24 hours that you and I have. However, how they use those 24 hours in their routine or their habits or their discipline is what makes the difference. Like I always tell people, do you know that Mark Zuckerberg, right, the guy from Facebook, you will always recognize him because he wears jeans, a gray T-shirt, and a black pair of Vans or whatever. Because in the morning, he doesn't want to waste his time thinking what he's going to wear. So he wears the same thing over and over and over, right? Because he doesn't want to think about wearing something, right? I don't know about you, but when I'm going to put a dress on, it will take me about 10 minutes kind of figuring out, should I try this on? Those are 10 minutes he doesn't have to worry about.
It can happen. Right. You always saw Steve Jobs wearing his black turtleneck for the same reason, because there's the decision exhaustion. And it takes a lot of energy, right, to make a decision. This is why these guys at the very, very top, they've learned the basics of energy management. Okay, so tell us really quickly what it is that you specifically help with, and in both of your businesses, where my listeners can find you on the web, how they can contact you. Tell us all of that, please.
Yes. Well, first of all, in 2020, I wrote the book called Neque, The Mindset to Get What You Want. And Neque is a Quechua word that literally translates to grit. And for the four components to achieve Neque, which all of us have, is purpose, persistence, persevere, and pivot. Once you hone your skills on your own Neque, because we all have it, it's just in a different way tailored to each of us, because we all are not created equal. We all unique, right? And we are meant to fulfill our purpose that only we can do, right? So with this book, Neque, that's what I do. I help business owners and entrepreneurs to write their happy success story while running a thriving, successful, and profitable business. And people can find me on my website, rosiepaulsen.com, www.rosiepaulsen.com. My email is rosie@rosiepaulsen.com. And my phone number, you can always text me, 813-909-6965, 813-909-6965. And the beauty of all this, with the pandemic, is that we can do virtual stuff now internationally, which I never really put that part in my business plan, because I always thought that the most I will ever go in my business will be Ecuador, to go back and visit my family and stuff. But after the pandemic, I have even become an international speaker because there are many platforms now of hosts that host international events, and they're all virtually. So there are people in South Africa, South America, Middle East, the United States, and we all in this platform just teaching our or sharing our knowledge with people that are looking to learn and improve their own skills. So, people can find me if they need questions answered about their Medicare options, but also if they want to build a thriving, successful, and profitable business.
Fantastic. And, I will make sure to add all the links to your email and your website in the podcast description. So for all the listeners, you can just look right in the description of the podcast and you will find all that information there. Listen, Rosie, your life is such a beautiful example of what happens when someone has this grit and has a very clear purpose. I love hearing that you fell in love with America and that you were so determined and that, your family understood that and they came with you. The wisdom that you have gained, right? All that wisdom that you have written in your book and that you share now with people, that came with experience, I'm sure, with many, many difficult moments.
Yeah.
But you didn't give up. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom here. You're such an inspiration. You really are a big inspiration to so many women. I can see why you shine so brightly, because there's this energy that you give away and then also what comes back to you for being such a big,
Thank you
I
so
really
much.
mean it.
I really appreciate it and I'll take it. I receive it with all my, all my heart. Thank you. Thank you so much because I really
You're very welcome.
love that I want to help people as much as I can.
So you are an incredible source of knowledge and I would love to have you come back. But so this is our first episode with Rosie, everybody. Rosie 101 today. We'll have her back on. Well, thank you so much, Rosie. I'm looking forward to our conversations in the future. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. If you want to contact Rosie, just look in the description of the podcast, and we'll talk again soon. Bye.